So we're learning Tanya, chapter 30, Perek Lamed. We are on page 76. The Alter Rebbe here is continuing his opening thought of chapter 29. How do you get rid of Timtum Halev? Clogging, jading of the heart, which causes us not to feel, to have the kavanah and the feeling when doing a mitzvah, especially when davening, and that's necessary if you want to have simcha, and you need to have simcha in avodas Hashem. So this is what he discussed in 29, and he gave us several suggestions. Now in chapter 30, he has another suggestion, and the suggestion that he begins with is the idea of humbling yourself simply by considering not being judgmental, because you don't know the situation. You don't know where he's at, and therefore it says it's not just a game, pretend, but you really, your feeling should be that you're humbled before kol ha'adam, even a kal shebekalim. And as well as that the Eibishter, the Pirkei Avos says it, that means that Pirkei Avos believes and wants a person to have this hergish, this feeling, which initially it seems perplexing, because why should you feel humble before Kal Shebekalim? And we discussed that yesterday. So now the Alter Rebbe is getting to a point where, not after telling us that you're not challenged with those issues. For example, if he's a Yoshvi Kronis, he sits in the corners and sees all kinds of taivas, and you sit at home and work, or you sit in your office, so how can you compare yourself to him? Number two, the Alter Rebbe says that even if you're also sitting on the corners and you're not fathomed, and he is fathomed by the taivas, it's because you're cold-blooded and he's hot-blooded. So these were the arguments, the positions the Alter Rebbe suggests that you should think about before you pass judgment. So he's in the middle of solidifying the argument that being judgmental is wrong. That doesn't yet mean that you should feel as you're on the same level as a Kal Shebekalim. There's three things. Listen to this. There's not being judgmental. There's feeling that he and I are equal. In other words, you don't have to be you could not be judgmental, but still you believe you're better than him. To yourself. So the second stage is not to feel that way. And the third stage is that you actually realize that you're lower than him. And that the Alter Rebbe is going to explain towards the end of the chapter. So there's a very methodical progression in the Perek. People learn this chapter for Chitas and they don't know from their Chayas. They think it's all one thing about not being judgmental. It's wrong. It's not the pshat. There's a progression here. The first part of the chapter is about not being judgmental. The second part's not only not being judgmental, but being equal. Right? I'm not better than him. I'm on the same level as him. And because why, we'll see soon. And then there's even a more humbling feeling, which is that he's even better than I. The Kal Shebekalim Isser, the lowlife, has one up on me. And that we're going to learn at the end. That's the structure of chapter 30 in Tanya. Now let's learn inside. Page 76. Vihine, after the period, about 7 lines down from the top and middle of page 76, Vihine. Vihine be'emes. It's truthfully a very, very great war, Muhammad Gedola, Va'atzuma, and a mighty war. Whoever is on iPhone, I don't know who's behind it, but please mute yourself. Lishboid Hayetzer Haboyer Ke'esh Lahava. To shatter.
If I knew how to.
Okay, no problem. Lishboid Hayetzer, it's a great and mighty battle. Lishboid Hayetzer, to shatter your Yetzer Hara. Haboyer Ke'esh, that burns like fire, Lahava, like a flame fire. Mipnei Pachad Hashem, because you have fear of God. U'kumoy nisoyin mamish. The Alter Rebbe says to wage war, and a mighty war, not just, Moshe, a little, it's not a big deal, but a real, it's like, it's a nisoyin. What he said yesterday, what Hillel shared with us, the example from his that's a Muhammad Atzuma. Here is Issa, you weren't here, but you saw this year. Someone who has a taiva. Nebuch has a taiva for children. As long as he was married, he controlled himself. His wife passed on. He felt he wouldn't control himself, wouldn't be able to, so he resigned from being a teacher, a rebbe, and he came to Hillel for help and advice and all that. It's a Milchama Atzuma. I mean, and that's an extreme example, but on the other hand, Chevron, it's not an extreme. Everyone has their taivas. The Alter Rebbe says, I don't have to tell you, everyone knows, for me, eating is a Milchama Atzuma, to hold myself back from not eating, and more than I need to, and all that. It's a Milchama Atzuma. It's a real Nisoyin. And everyone has their taivas. So you have to realize that the Milchama is a Milchama Atzuma. It's a big war. It's not just, two little people playing with the slings on your block. This is the enemy. Says the Alter Rebbe v'hilchoch, therefore, let's continue. Tzarech kol adam lefi mashahu mikoymoi umadregosei. Therefore, every person, based on where is his place, where you are, physically, your location and all that, umadregosei, and your spiritual level, b'avodas Hashem, in regard to service of God, lishkel, you have to weigh yourself. Weigh not, on a thing, on a scale, but weigh yourself spiritually. V'livchem be'atzmai, and check yourself out. Avram, imu eved Hashem, you are a servant of God, and you're looking, Isser, and this fellow is a Kal Shabbat, and you're saying, look, I'm not going to be judgmental him. I'm not going to judge him, but to myself, I know that, I'm davening, I'm learning, I'm doing mitzvahs, and he's not. Says the Alter Rebbe, wait a minute. I want you, supposedly you're an Eved Hashem. I want you to check yourself out. Make a real cheshbon between you and the wall, and no one else. Not your wife, not your kids, not your rabbi, not your friends. You yourself make a cheshbon. Look at the words. Imu Eved Hashem, if you're such a servant of God, be'erech u'pchinas Milchama Atzuma, in the same manner that with a great war, v'nisoyim kazeh b'pchinas v'asei toiv, in the good things that you do. In other words, you're davening. I want you to think about whether you, in your good davening, are really davening with great kavanah, and that you feel a struggle to think more the words and to meditate more and all that. Well, you just say them, and then you walk out. I davened this morning, and this guy went to play golf in the morning. So who's better? So, I davened to the minyan. I didn't go to play golf. Says the Alter Rebbe, but so you davened. Did you really daven? Did you exert as much energy in fighting the Yetzer Hara, who doesn't want you to have kavanah in davening, as he has to fight the Yetzer Hara not to look where he's not supposed to? No. Let's go further. Kigoyin. The Alter Rebbe now is going to give us 3 examples in the chapter. Torah, tefillah, and tzedakah. 3 examples. The first one is tefillah. When it comes to prayer, davening, Avram, b'kavona, with focus and concentration, lishbach nafshe lifnei Hashem, to pour out your heart before Hashem. Who can say here that they poured their heart out before God Rosh Hashanah? He just for davening. 2 days, 48 hours, davening. Now the slichas, for those that say slichas. And there's Yom Kippur. You daven out of my head. Like my friends and I were on the group chat, about slichas. I said, my friends, halavai, I would have kavanah in the slichas that I said last week. I'm not poo-pooing anyone to say slichas. I'm just saying, kavanah lishpoich nafshay lifnei Hashem. You have to ask yourself, did you pour your heart out to Hashem, or you just went along with the minyan, and you have all the excuses? You're a gabbai, you're a rabbi, you're a congregant, you're from, you want to make the minyan, all the excuses. But one thing is, you didn't do lishpech nafshe b'shem Hashem. We didn't pour our heart out. Pour our heart out means to pour your heart out, as though there is I'm going to use a musavart, a knife at your neck. There was a very famous chassid of Avram Mayor Drizin. I've mentioned his name to you many times. He was an older mashpia of mine, not in yeshiva, but in the community. And he would say about big chassidim in Russia, who everyone would say, "Ooh, this chassid, ooh, he's great, this chassid, whoa, bah, 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 bah." And Avram would say the following: if he didn't go to the shechita, he's a little man. What does it mean he didn't go to the shechita? If he was not ready to do or die for Yiddishkeit and fighting communism and Stalin Yamach Shemam and the KGB, then all of his learning and all of his nothing is nothing. It's a kleinigkeit, it's little change. It's nothing. And I always think about it because it's so true. It's so true. So in Russia it was, are you ready to go and talk to children, to go to a little cheder or to open a mikveh when they're going to shoot you, kill you, take you away to Siberia, you'll never see your family again. We don't have that Mesidas level. We don't have that issue today. But we have other issues. Getting up early, not for having a love affair with your pillow, davening with kavana. Okay? We have, when you eat, you sheet l'shem shemayim. We have so many, so this guy's a Rosh Hashiva and he's a Steiger. How does he eat? Does he eat like a Yid? How does he sleep? Does he sleep like a Yid? There were people, there were Yidden who wouldn't cover their feet when they slept. You know why? Because their body shouldn't get heated up and they might have a nocturnal emission accidentally at night. No? Do you do that? Do I do that? Oh, we say Krishma Shalamita. We'll give you a big star. What's your... That's what the Alter Rebbe is referring to here. The Alter Rebbe here is really laying it into us to humble us. And he's saying, you're critical of a Kal Shebekalim who has taivas in front of his eyes, and you think you're better because you're an Oved Hashem, and you're davening. Says the Alter Rebbe, are you davening? Again, the words here are very important. Lishpoich nafshay lifnei Hashem. Do you pour out your heart before Hashem? By the way, I don't mean only with tears and the frustration and for Hashem. I'm talking about even in happiness. Simcha is a true simcha. True simcha. Not just simcha because, I'm sorry to say, I saw the Slichas program at the Karlbach Shul Matzah Shabbos, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and they're going strong. It's just seeing it on the screen is uplifting. But at the same time, yeah, it's easier. When Yehuda Green is leading, sounds like Shleim a little bit, and there's a whole concert right around him, and all the chevra there, and there's Lubavitchers, and there's Streimlich, and there's Litvax, and there's this, and there's that, and everyone's together. It's wonderful, no question about it. On the other hand, they have but take a Yid who's by himself in a little shtibale, in a little shilachul, a little shul. He doesn't have Yehuda Green. He doesn't have a band. He doesn't have 300 people. It's not 2 a.m. You know what I'm saying? You don't have all the sidekicks. No. And he davens with great kavanah slichas and pours his heart out. I don't know. Maybe he's on a higher level than all of that. Okay? You know, it reminds me when I was in Bet Shemesh Taki 1 year, and Rabbi Faro asked me to lead the slichas, and I did. And I came into slichas thinking there's going to be 100 people in the shul, you know, up over there on Dolev. And I came in, and we barely made a minyan, 10, 15 people. And here they have Chaim Dalfin. You know, I'm saying to myself, I have to lead service. I have to now stand there and you know, knock myself out, because if I'm doing slichas, I'm going to try to do it right, the first slichas. That's right. That's right. You have 10, 15 people. The Karlbach Shul down the road probably had 200 people. The other Rabbi Haber Shul, I don't know if it was open then, you know, and H. Kodesh, and our, the Lubavitcher Shul had barely had a minyan, you know. But that's the Avodah. The Avodah is, it's a personal thing, even if you're about Sibur, about Tefillah. Now you lishpech nafshe l'Hashem in your Tefillah. And if you are lishpech nafshe b'Hashem, then it's quite possible that your tefillah is better than all the other tefillahs. Ki yedua ha'maaseh with the Baal Shem Tov, Reb Zev Kitzes, right? He says to him, Avram, you know the story? He says, I want you to blow shofar in my shul, in the measure bush in the Baal Shem Tov shul. And he gave him the kavanas of Baal Shem Tov, which there are. In Chabad, the Rabbeim instructed the Baal Tokeya to learn kavanas hatkiyas al pi ha-Baal Shem Tov. It's a mimer. I read through it quickly before davening the second day, even though I wasn't the Baal Tokeya, but nevertheless. And that's a mimer. It's about 6-7 pages and explains in detail what sound is. It's right. So the Baal Shem Tov gave Reb Zev Kitzes, I think, the kavanas. He wrote them down, and now he comes to the Beis Baal Shem Tov's Kodesh, Beis Medrash, Rosh Hashanah, and he gets up there and he looks for his paper, and he doesn't have his paper. He lost his paper. So he says, "Oy vey, I didn't memorize the kavanas. How am I going to blow the shofar?" The Baal Shem Tov says to him, Reb Zev, blow the shofar. And the Baal Shem Tov tells you to blow. You blow. Kavanas here, kavanas there. You blow. And he blows the shofar with such a brokenheartedness. He's so shattered that he didn't have the kavanas of the Baal Shem Tov, that the Baal Shem Tov wanted him to think about during the shofar blowing in his shul in Mezhebush, and he lost them. And Baal Shem Tov said to him after davening, this year the shofar blowing was the best ever that you blew. So he said, Rebbe, why? He says, because until now you were reading a script. You were thinking a script. And this year you blew from your heart. And that's the best way. So the Alter Rebbe says, Lishpech nafshi lifnei Hashem, to pour your heart out before Hashem, there is no script to Lishpech nafshi b'shem Hashem. Okay? If anyone tells you that there is, it's wrong. It doesn't mean you shouldn't learn the kavanas. But this, technicality, like by the I've said this, by the Amid, what does it say? Shavisi Hashem l'negdi summit. It's as though, and every normal regular shul has that, but if it's just a shavisi on the Amid and it's not a shavisi in the heart, it's like it says kan sorach livkos. Kan sorach. Here we have to bow. Here we have to stand. You remember your days when you started, some of you, and you got the English instruction: bow, stand, up, down. I'm sure at that time you thought that this is nuts. It's like, but you're going with the program. But now I'm going to say, Kan Sorach Livkas. Here you have to cry. Push the button. Cry. I come to Fabrenga sometimes and they say, sing this niggas, sing that niggas. And I say, what am I, a jukebox? You're putting in 5 cents, $5? You're going to scratch the button, my button? Dalfin, sing this. Dalfin, sing that. It don't work that way. Either I feel it or I don't. And if I don't, I ain't singing it for you. I could sing it for you, but it's meaningless. A niggin is mikul mesalev, the pen of the soul, song of the soul. So if you're not inspired to sing this particular niggin, but you know, what do we say in Hebrew? Olam goylam. The foolish world, olam goylam. You have to sing this song at this time because the congregation knows this music and they don't know another music that you might choose. Alter Rebbe here says, between you and Hashem, there's no place for that. When you're in a shul, and you know whether you're getting paid to be the Baal Tefillah or not getting paid, or you're performing or you're leading, okay, you have a choice. Don't go over to the other. If you want to daven with your kavanah, and you know, on the other hand, if they need you to go over, you have a nice voice, and you're doing a mitzvah to help them, why not? Why not? So you're lacking your kavanah? Okay, so stay longer afterwards and cry your heart out then, or before you come to shul. But don't take away the pleasure of people who like your voice to, you know. Anyway, let's go on. I just threw in a few sidebars here, since we are in the Yom Neiroyim. Let's continue the text. Ask yourself whether you're exerting yourself in davening by pouring your heart out to Hashem with all of your koiches. Look at the words now, Isser. Ad mitzui hanefesh. You know what mitzui hanefesh means? Moshe, you know what mitzui hanefesh? Mitzui hanefesh means till your soul ceases, ends. Yoini. Have you ever seen someone daven and he's so ecstatic in his davening that he faints? There was once a chassid, Reb Zalman Duchman, the Rebbe in 1958, Simchas Torah. My father was there when he came from Eretz Yisrael via France to America for the first time. The Rebbe taught a new niggin for 10 years, from 1954 to 1964, Simchas Torah in the morning, about 4 or 5 in the morning. After Akofis, he went upstairs, he had, you know, he made Kiddush, whatever, and then he came, or he didn't, I don't know, he came back down, he stood at the exit, right before the exit of 770, the small part of the Beis Medrash, on a box, on a milk crate box, and he taught a new niggin. And the condition was, and he gave l'chaim, and the condition was that you should take an increase in the learning of Chassidus. After 10 years, for whatever he stopped, various people say different reasons, but in 1958 he taught the niggin called the Shamil's niggin, you know, the ya 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 ay 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 la ay 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 ya ya da ya 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 da ya ya da ya hi ya 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 ya. There's the part of the niggin, I just sang it softly, where your voice goes very high. So this was at Simchas Torah morning of 1958. During the Fabrenga, the Simchas Torah Fabrenga, the night after, the Rebbe requested they sing the niggin together so that everyone can become proficient in the niggin. And they did. And then later, through the year, there were periods when they sang the niggin at Fabrengens. Because, remember, most people didn't know the niggin before, or didn't know it correctly. And the Rebbe taught it correctly. In fact, the Frierdiker Rebbe, they tried singing the song in the 1940s at a Farbrengen with the previous Rebbe, and the previous Rebbe said, you're singing it incorrectly, and when my son-in-law will come, I guess this was in 1940 yet, or maybe this was in Europe still, when it will come, he will teach you, no, but not Europe, probably America, he will teach you correctly the niggin. Well, he taught it in 1958, publicly. And so then, because it was new, people still didn't know the niggin properly. So they would sing it at Farbrengens. My father says, he stood 2-3 feet from the Rebbe. He says, he thought his soul is expiring. He said, if you stood there and the Rebbe sang the whole niggin, he said, he thought his soul will expire from the sweetness and the depth of the niggin coming out of the tzaddik's mouth. That's how powerful. And I heard similar from Rabbi Chaim, who of course was there. Anyway, one time during the year, I guess 58, 59, they sang the niggin. This is on a tape. You can hear it. And the Rebbe sang it by himself, again, at the Farbrengen. And there was a chassid, Reb Zalman Duchman. You know the Duchman family, the Shalom Duchman was the head of Koil Chabad. His grandfather, Zalman was his name, Reb Zalman. So Reb Zalman heard the Rebbe sing it, and this time the Rebbe sang that high part so high that his voice snapped. He couldn't go any further. Right? Reb Zalman was a Russian Yid. He said, listen to this. He thought that Rebbe fainted, and you hear him saying the tape. Bring Wasser, kvart Wasser. Bring a pitcher of water. He was going to pour the water on the Rebbe and give him, because he thought he fainted. And a minute later, the Rebbe continued singing. Mitzui HaNefesh. Expiration of the soul. Where the soul, I think they use the word in English, Avram is the word rapture. I don't know if they use that word, rapture. It's used, I think.
Rapture the soul.
Right.
Rapture, you're right.
Right, but I'm not sure it's used. It might be a Christian. I think it has a Christian source. I don't know. I have the rapture. I don't know if it's. But that's the idea. Yes, Moshe.
The use here in the translation, the exhaustion of the soul.
Exhaustion, okay. But to me, exhaustion has like, I guess, to me, exhaustion has like a negative. This is not a negative. This is so positive, Yaini, that you're so won through the davening that you pour your heart out, your heart expires from love. You understand, Moshe?
The soul leaves your body.
What? Yeah.
The soul wants to leave your
right.
body.
The soul wants to leave the body. Correct. So, but it's positive, not okay. Whatever the word is. What? What is it?
Body experience.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. That's we all know what we're talking about. Let's continue. And that causes you not, like you say, to have the out-of-body experience and go take a hike, but to wage war with your body and your nefesh that prevent you from having kavana, and you wage war, a mighty war, to destroy them and to shatter them like dust. You do this every day before davening, chakras, v'ardis, midiyayim b'yayim each day. He doesn't say mincha because mincha is already been prepared through chakras. If you have a great chakras, when it comes mincha time, you're going to have this feeling too. The gam b'shas tefillah, not only should you experience this level Mitzvah Nefesh before davening, but even during davening, b'shas tefillah, le'yageya atzmei b'yagias nefesh v'yagias basar, to exert yourself with exertion of soul and exertion of flesh, because it says later on in chapter 42. The whole shalayagia l'dei midazu lilochem in gufay milchama atzuma kazu adayin layagia lebchinas ve'erech milchemes hayetzahara hayetzer aboyer ke'esh lahava li's nichlev nishba b'pnei pach Hashem. And whoever didn't reach this experience hasn't reached an iota of comparing himself to the person who has the burning taiva. So in other words, the person who has the burning taiva is in Sur Meirah. Watch your eyes. I am hot-blooded and all that, right? Fine. And you? No, show me. Show me that you have the same passion for God in your davening. You don't. You don't. So who are you to talk? And who are you to think you're better? Second example. We'll finish in a few minutes. So too when you bench. This is part of tefillah. Eating. When's the last time you stopped for 2 minutes before you put the food in your mouth and you thought about the bracha and you became ecstatic with God that you're about to make a blessing? V'hamitzvahs b'kavona. Doing the brachas of birkas hanenin, of benefiting from food items and mitzvahs. Ve'ein tzorach lo mekavonas hamitzvahs l'shmon. Surely are you doing the mitzvah for the sake of the mitzvah? Now the Alter Rebbe goes to the example of Torah learning. To learn more than your natural tendency based on your nature and your habit. Fight in your body who doesn't have the zitzfleisch. As Yonis, we say yeshiva, you got a lot of spilkes. You got a lot of pins, you know where. So sit still and learn and don't move. No, I can't. I got ADD, I got ADHD, I got this, I got that. All the excuses. So you learn a little bit, but that's it. I can't learn anymore, right? Says the Alter Rebbe. And you're looking at this guy who can't fight his Yetzer Hara on the street corners. And you're sitting in the Beis Medrash and you can't sit more than a certain amount of time because you got ants in your pants. Not so Menashe, but by learning a little bit, the Alter Rebbe says, even if you learn a little more than your natural tendency, next page, that doesn't compare to the burning passion and lust that this guy has. You're complaining that he's a Baal Taiva. He's a grub yung, he's a coarse guy. He's an animal. And you are not. You are. Because not in the lust side, in the positive side, but you're learning a little bit. Who cares? A little bit? That's infantile. The Mikre Rosh Gomer. Right? We said earlier, someone who has this lust and passion is called a Rasha. If you don't overcome. Now look at the Alter Rebbe's words and we'll stop here and continue tomorrow. Umali p'chinas sur meira, umali p'chinas v'asei toiv. What's the difference? Whether you don't wage war when it comes to preventing yourself from bad, from evil, sur meira, or whether you don't exert effort in the positive, asei toiv. Hakol, hu, he, mitzvahs hamelech. Everything is the command of the king, HaKadosh, the Holy One, Yochid Umyuchid Baruch Hu, who is united. And we're going to explain tomorrow these three terms. But the bottom line that Alter Rebbe is saying here is, fella, wake up and smell the coffee. Your avoida, stinks. Okay? And therefore, since your avoida is meager, you are no better than the one who can't control his Yetzer Hara with the taivas in front of the eyes. What we're going to learn later on is that you're worse. Because he's sitting on the street corners. That's his place of work. That's where the taivas are, right? He didn't choose that job. He was put there. You choose where to learn and where to daven, and you don't exert yourself. So who is worse, you or him? Chevra, sei gesund. We'll see everyone tomorrow.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I have a problem. I'm being judgmental on somebody who davens better than I do, learns more than I do, and is a much better chassid than I am. However, this person causes me trauma. They refuse to help me out when I need help, and it's causing me trauma. Not that I'm looking down at this person, but it's still causing me trauma, so I'm being judgmental that way.
Without hearing and seeing and understanding the other person's perspective, it's unfair for me to make a statement. All I can say is that don't look at your avodas Hashem compared to him. You focus on
I'm not looking at my avodas Hashem compared to him. His avodas Hashem is better than mine. I recognize that.
Okay.
But it doesn't. I recognize his avodas Hashem is better than mine. I'm not looking down on his avodas Hashem. I'm saying that I need some help, and his lack of help is causing me trauma. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm not saying his avodas Hashem.
I will, in Hashem, leave a voice note on your wife's WhatsApp, and we'll go that way, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sei gesund. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.